Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I have a question that came in from Victoria. Victoria signed up and she came into the group asking a question, and I thought I'd just turn it into an episode in case there's someone else who was asking or thinking the same thing. Victoria asks, how do you keep the interview going when you are having a challenging time with the person you are speaking with? Interesting. So if you are doing interviews, this is going to be a podcast to give you a hand with that. Right here on the How to Podcast series. So you're doing your interview, things are going well, you think, but then things kind of fall off and you're not having the best experience. You don't want to abandon ship. You've put in time into this interview. Your guest has shown up, but it's just not going right. And to Victoria's question, how do you fix something when it's not working? So a few tips today to share with you here on the How to Podcast series on how to salvage and rescue an interview. So number one, don't call it out. Don't make mention of it within the recording. Don't make it blatantly obvious that things aren't going well. Watch your comments, watch your reactions, and try to steer the conversation with positivity and with a refocus on the topic, on the guest, and on the subject matter at hand. The next thing is to do a quick inventory. Take a moment to collect yourself. Take a moment to kind of understand maybe what is going on. Maybe the guest is having a bad day. You're having a bad day. There's something happening that's throwing this off. And see what you can do as a quick inventory during the recording to turn this whole thing around. And don't be afraid to change things up. If you feel like the interview is going downhill, don't be afraid to change tactics. Have you been formally addressing your guests by Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. or Your Honor? How have you been addressing them up during the recording? Maybe you can change it up. Can I call you Steve? Steve, tell me about a time, and go from there. A simple change like that might change the dynamic between you and your guest and might help save your recording. Next thing is just take the lead. So as a host, make sure that you go through the doorway first with your guest. Don't expect your guest to just naturally take you places and take you on the interview. You're the host. Your podcast, your audience, the guest is coming to speak to your group. You need to go first. So if you want the guest to go through that door or answer that question, maybe you lead it up with an example from your own life and then ask the question to kind of bridge that gap between you and your guest. Maybe there's just a misunderstanding, and that could easily be solved by how you treat them and how you go first. The other thing is don't take it personally. Again, I spoke to a podcast host today. I was guesting. I was their fourth episode today that they have recorded. They were tired, but they did a great job, and the listener of their podcast has no idea that they had recorded their fourth episode that day. There's no way to know that. So we just hear the final result. So don't take it personally. Come to it with freshness when you come to your podcast. And just realize that your guest might be tired, you might be tired, and you need to turn that around. And lastly, follow up as usual. Make sure that you, even if the interview is not the best in your mind as compared to some of the other ones, make sure you do great follow-up with your guests. Thank them for their time. And extend that offer to come back and do another one in the future. Always nice to have that referral or that return guests come back and give an update. The one thing I would suggest, Victoria, and for those that are listening, is to always do a pre-interview with your guests. The joy of this is you're not meeting the guest for the first time on the podcast recording day. That can lead to all kinds of troubles if you don't know what their sound is like, you don't know how they are on camera, you don't know how your personalities are going to mesh, you don't know if there's chemistry there between you and your guest. Having a pre-interview, you can kind of erase all of the questions that might pop up that could possibly derail your upcoming podcast recording because you have a trial run with them. and it kind of builds a bridge between you and your guest. So my advice, Victoria, here in our group here on the Mighty Networks for the How to Podcast series, Mastermind, always try to have a pre-interview with your guest. It'll help you to understand how they think, how they present themselves. Go and search them up on other podcasts. Listen to what people are asking. Listen to how they respond. Do they take over the podcast and not allow the podcaster to ask questions? Do they give one-word answers? Are they a good guest? Are they interesting? And you'll get a sense as you listen to different episodes how they might be on your podcast. Now, if you are a new podcaster and you are looking for practice on doing interviews, maybe you have an interview-based podcast and you don't have any interviews. Very hard to get that first, second, third interview when you don't have a catalog of past interviews. If that's you and you're looking for somebody to come on and do a mock interview with you, whether you keep the interview or not, that doesn't matter. If you want somebody to come on your podcast and be an interview for you as you're starting out, reach out to me here and send me a message. I would love to volunteer my time. I will come on. I will be your guinea pig. I will be your test dummy. And you can go through and try out how you're going to do your interviews. At the end, you'll end up with your own recording, a video recording, an audio recording that you can use to practice with. Even if you never post the episode, I'm fine with that. I just want to help you out. Maybe I can give you a few tips. Maybe we can kind of go through the interview process together and help each other out. I'm willing to do that. I've been posting it on Facebook groups and just giving that an offer. So if you're new to interviewing and you need help, reach out to me and I'd love to help you out with that. Thank you for listening to the How to Podcast series. Victoria, thank you for your question in the group. Send us a message today and let's get your podcast going. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you on the next one. And Victoria, hey, thanks again for the question. Thank you. Make sure you check out A Contagious Smile, great podcast by Victoria, and you will learn from a very great new podcaster. Victoria, thank you for your help. Have a great day, guys. Talk to you soon.